cybercrime syndicates are behind the illegal trade in ivory, rhino horn, and protected wildlife artifacts. A new report from a London research organization says to stop this trade, investigators need to track the money to bring the heads of the crime groups to justice. More from VOA senior analyst Jeffrey Young.
The illegal trade in wildlife products is a transnational organised crime, and we must not lose sight of that fact. Like drugs, like weapons, it's transnational, it's organised.
Tom Keating with the London-based Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, along with co-author Kathy Heinlein, spent the past 18 months following the money gained by killing elephants, rhinos, and other species in Africa to the shops of East Asia. Their new paper, Follow the Money, says that while prosecuting poachers and seizing wildlife artifacts are important, halting the trade requires tracking financial flows to identify the people at the top of the business.
Anything that moves across border, across thousands of miles between East Africa and Asia, will have a related financial flow. And so looking at the finances can be a very effective way of identifying the kingpins behind this business.
Interpol and the UN Environment Program have said this wildlife crime, ranging from killing for ivory, rhino horn, and animal skins to the taking of rare species for pets, is worth between $7 billion and $23 billion a year. However, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime says it's nearly impossible to quantify the trade because many African countries don't separately tally crimes against wildlife. With so much money on the line, the smuggler networks do not want conservationists and others getting in their way. Last month, Wayne Lauder, co-founder of the conservation group PAMS Foundation, was gunned down in Tanzania in what police say was a coordinated attack. Lauder was one of the people responsible for the arrest of Yang Fanlan, the so-called Ivory Queen, accused of running a multi-million-dollar ring smuggling ivory. The RUSI report says several African nations, including Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, do not use their money laundering laws effectively in the fight against the wildlife trade. The report says that many law enforcement agencies don't go beyond catching poachers and confiscating the artifacts. RUSI's Keating says police should put pressure on low-level participants to reach the money people at the top of the chain.
Use his financial connections to determine who does he work for, who pays his legal bills, who pays his bail and his fine if he's sentenced. So there's much more that finance can do to help tackle this trade.
The RUSI report concludes that wildlife traffickers, like other criminals, depend on the ability to move money and to hide the proceeds of the business. It calls on states to change their money laundering laws to include prosecution for cash gained through wildlife crime. Jeffrey Young, VOA News.
Despite the Nigerian local content bill aimed at increasing indigenous participation in the country's oil and gas industry, there remains a low representation of Nigerian companies. Leaders at various levels continue to create awareness of the local content regime. Channels Television's correspondent Tokwe Kuteyi compiled our report.
Since the discovery of oil in Nigeria over 50 years ago, the petroleum industry has been run by a group of international oil majors, leaving little room for indigenous companies. This, according to analysts, means minimal contribution by Nigerians to the wider Nigerian economy. Continuous efforts to boost local content include provisions in the Petroleum Act on mandatory employment and training of Nigerians, technology transfer, and local content utilization, among others. Most prominent is the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act of 2010, a codification of attempts to increase local content level in the oil and gas industry for maximum benefits to Nigerians. But in spite of ongoing efforts, the local content level still stands at a dismal 26%. In addition to legislation, several platforms exist for deliberations around the need for local content implementation. This important conversation holds at the 2017 Nigerian Content Workshop in Owerri, Imo State, where leaders and industry players brainstorm on sustainable development.
The Senate through arising from a motion on the need to ascertain the degree of local content in the oil and gas industry, carried out an investigative public hearing on the implementation of local contents in the oil and gas in Nigeria. While it was argued that only a few well-established medium to large-scale Nigerian enterprises are able to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the Act, we agreed that we must keep exploring ways for majority of the relatively new and small companies in the oil and gas industry to benefit from this Act.
The Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board, which aims at building local capacities, has a target of increasing the local content level from 26% to 70% by the year 2027 through a 10-year roadmap.
The 5 strategic pillars and the 4 enablers contain several initiatives to tackle the various challenges confronting the deepening of our local content capability. We look forward to your support towards achieving success in delivery of these strategic initiatives.
For Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha, the National Oil and Gas Development Content Act 2010 provides a good opportunity to develop local content.
We have everything that it takes to make a great nation, even greater than the greatest nation in the world. But our challenge is the ability to develop the resources of our land ourselves and making them more productive for external consumption. That's our challenge. So local content is a step in the right direction.
Opportunities abound in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, and efforts aimed at increasing local content will continue as the government intensifies efforts at job creation, industrialization, and socio-economic development.
It's time now for a short break, but before we go, a reminder to visit our website. It's channelstv.com for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, a visit to Joy Town, a very special school in Kenya where kids with physical challenges are given a chance to thrive. That story after the break.